Welcome again to the Old Principal. I am the Old Principal, 我就是老校长, and we come to another English instructional program. This will be lesson number 5, Fresh Fish. 新鲜的鱼 Fresh Fish. I saw this story on the internet. I thought, wow, that's interesting. So let's enjoy it first as Connie reads it. Then I'll come back and explain it sentence by sentence. So here's the story.
Number 5, Fresh Fish. Are challenges good or bad? Here is a story found on the internet. You have probably heard that the Japanese people love to eat fresh raw fish. It makes sense because Japan is an island nation. But if everyone likes to eat fresh raw fish, then maybe the supply would eventually diminish. In fact, that is what happened. The waters close to Japan have not held many fish for decades. So the fishing boats got bigger and traveled farther away. The further the fishermen went, the longer it took to bring back the fish. If the return trip took more than a few days, the fish were not fresh. The people did not like the taste. To solve this problem, fishing companies installed freezers on their boats. They would catch the fish and freeze them at sea. However, the Japanese people could taste the difference between the fresh and frozen, and they did not like frozen fish. The frozen fish brought a lower price because it was not so tasty. So, fishing companies installed fish tanks on the boats. The live fish were placed in the tanks. For a while, the fish were active, but then they stopped moving. They were tired, sluggish, but alive. Unfortunately, the Japanese could still taste the difference. They had lost their fresh fish taste. The Japanese preferred the taste of fresh fish, not sluggish fish. So, how did Japanese fishing companies solve this problem? How did they get fresh-tasting fish all the way back home to Japan? They added a small shark to each tank. The shark eats a few fish, but the fish arrive in a very lively state. The fish are challenged, and when they arrived at the Japanese tables, they tasted good. But for you and me, the point is this: do not be afraid of new challenges. Put a shark in your tank and see how far you can really go.
Welcome back. Are challenges good or are they bad? 挑战是好的还是坏的? Well, it depends. Some challenges probably are bad. Some challenges are good. But we will come back to this at the very end of our lesson. Here is a story I found on the internet. I saw it. I said, hey, that's cool. And I had to rewrite it a little bit, but enjoy. Going on. You have probably heard that the Japanese people love to eat raw, fresh fish. 日本人很喜欢吃这个生鱼片. Okay, so you probably know that. I know many places here in Hong Kong and in Taiwan have Japanese restaurants. And they just love the Japanese people, 这个日本人很喜欢吃这个 生鱼片, okay? And of course it makes sense, 很合理, because Japan is an island nation, 岛国, okay, 海岛, right, an island, 国家, 岛国. So it just makes good sense because they have lots of fish around them going on. But if everyone likes fish, everyone likes to eat fresh, raw fish, 生鱼片, then maybe the supply, 供应, would eventually diminish. The supply, 这个要供应的 would eventually diminish. We have a saying in English, I didn't include it in this lesson, but I'm sure you've heard, some of you, that the demand is greater than the supply. Okay? So the supply would eventually diminish, but the people would still want it. Demand. 他想要的, 得到的 would be too great. Diminish? What does diminish mean? Diminish means 越来越少. It just means it goes less and less and less and less. 在事实上, this is exactly what happened. 就是那样发生的 going on. Okay, I think you skipped. Okay. The waters close to Japan have not held many fish for decades. A decade is 10 years, so many, it says 几十年. The waters near Japan, not many fish. Why? Because everybody is fishing. If everybody likes fish, and they fish and fish and fish, finally there's no more fish around. But there was a solution. The fishing boats got larger and bigger, and they traveled farther away. So, you can have a little boat if you just fish next to the country. But now if you're going to go a long ways away, then your boats have to be bigger and bigger. And of course, they're traveling 越来越远. In other words, they're traveling farther away. So, what to do? Here's the problem going on. The further the fishermen went, the longer it took to bring back the fish. Well, that makes sense. If the fishermen, 这个渔夫, if they had to go a long ways away, what? Then, after they catch their fish, they have to do something. What? They have to go back to Japan, of course. And so it takes more time to go back home. Key word, time, okay? If the return trip, okay, took more than a few days, the fish were not fresh. Okay? So, 超过几天呢? The fish were not fresh. 不是很新鲜的. So, what do you say? So what? The fish is a fish is a fish, and it's okay, right? No, it isn't going on. People did not like the taste. 人们呢不喜欢这个味道。So there's no fish close to Japan, so they're going farther away. They're coming back. By the time they get back home, people say, no. They didn't like the flavor, okay? To solve this problem, okay, the fishing companies, 这个捕鱼的这个公司 installed freezers on their boats. Installed, 安装 or just 装, okay? Freezers. What is a freezer? 冰冻库, 冷冻库. Better be 冰冻库 because it's frozen. 冰冻库. Big freezers, big freezers on the boats. In fact, they even have what they call a refrigeration boat that just specialized in freezing these fish. Solve the problem? Going on. They would catch the fish and freeze them at sea. Don't wait until you get home. When you're out at sea, in fact, they had a boat just for processing, 就是要加工啊等等. And all the littler boats would bring the fish to the big boat, and the big boat would process it. Okay, 会经过一些加工的程序. But, going on, however, but, the Japanese people could taste the difference between fresh and frozen, and they did not like the frozen fish. Okay, the Japanese people could taste 尝 taste the difference, the 分别, okay, fresh fish and frozen fish, and they did not like the frozen fish. 冰过的, okay, 冰过的鱼 doesn't taste good. They just didn't taste good. Now, so you have a problem. First of all, they didn't like the fresh because, hey, what, you know, it's too long. They had been dead for too long. Then they tried frozen, 冰的, 冻的. Didn't work. Going on. The frozen fish brought a lower price, of course. 价钱比较低 because it 不好吃. When we add the word to taste, 尝 is to taste something. 尝食物等等, to taste the food. Now, if you put a Y on it, it becomes 好吃, or in this case, 不这么好吃, 不这么好吃, not so tasty. Going on. So the fishing companies installed what? Installed fish tanks on the boats. The live fish were placed in the tanks. Okay, so people don't like them frozen? No problem. We'll put fish tanks. 很大的 这个水池，水池。So you have these big fish tanks, and then you put the live fish inside that 活的这个鱼就放在这个水池。Okay, so these are big boats with lots of tanks for putting the fish in them. Now, if they have these fish tanks on the boats, the live fish were placed in the tanks so the fish would not die. So when they get back to Japan, you would have live fish, right? Go on. For a while, the fish were active. For a while, they were active, okay? That is, they were active, 动来动去, 游来游去, okay? But then they stopped moving. 开始不动. They stopped moving. Going on. They were tired, sluggish, but alive. Okay, tired, 就累了. Okay, do fish get tired? Of course. Sluggish, 没有生气. Sluggish means that they're slow and they're not very lively. Okay, 没有那么活泼. They were tired, they were sluggish, but they were alive. They were alive. They weren't dead. Unfortunately, the Japanese people could still taste the difference. 这个日本人还是还可以分别出来，这个哪一个是新鲜的 ？They could taste the difference. 这个尝这个分别。Wow. They had lost their fresh fish taste. 已经失去它的 fresh fish 新鲜的这个鱼的这个味道。Okay, now they've got a problem. Even the live ones in the fish tanks don't work. So what did they do? Going on. Japanese preferred the taste of fresh fish, not sluggish fish. Okay, the Japanese preferred the taste of fresh fish, 宁愿吃这个生鱼片，新鲜的 ，not sluggish， 没有生气的，半死的 ，sluggish 就是已经半死了。But they were alive, still they didn't like them. So the question is, how did these Japanese companies, these fishing companies, solve this problem? How to solve this problem? 怎么样解决这个问题呢？ Going on. How did they get fresh tasting fish all the way back home to Japan? Remember, this is a long ways away. So how did they get them all the way back home? They added a small shark in each tank. Okay, 他们就把一个小小的鲨鱼摆在 每一个水池里面。结果呢 What was the result? The shark eats a few fish. Of course. And it's easy to get the fish. He doesn't have to work so hard. I mean, he's got all these fish swimming around. But the fish arrive in a very lively state. Okay, 他们到达日本的时候 the fish arrive 到达 okay, in a very lively state. 活生生的活泼的 These fish were alive because they have to stay away from the shark. Stay away from the shark. And so they're trying to stay away, 避免这个鲨鱼 going on. The fish are challenged. And when they arrived to the Japanese tables, they tasted good. The fish are challenged. Of course, the fish 就是有挑战大的挑战 The name of the challenge is a shark. A shark, 鲨鱼 So when they arrived at Japanese tables, 到日本人的桌子上餐桌上 they tasted good. They tasted good. Going on. But you and me, for us, the point is this. Do not be afraid of challenges. Do not be afraid of challenges. Some people spend a lot of time trying to avoid responsibility. 很想这个逃避不接受这个责任 And of course, they don't want the challenges. 他们不喜欢这种挑战 Do not be afraid. 不要怕 these new challenges. And then I finish this lesson by saying something that's quite interesting. If you're an American, you'll appreciate this. It may be a little bit harder to understand if you aren't. Put a shark in your tank. Okay. Put a shark in your tank and see how far you can really go. 看你能够跑得多远 Now, obviously, we're not talking about sharks. And you don't have a tank. So this is we could say 一个比喻 or a metaphor. Okay? Put a shark in your tank. Accept some challenges today. And see how much these challenges will help you change. When you have challenges, then we say in English, rise to the occasion. 你会想办法应付 And when you do, you grow. 你会生长，你会进步 So, put a shark in your tank today and see how far you will go. Well, this is the philosophy part of the old principle. 老校长很喜欢讲哲学. You would expect that, I guess. Now, I was just thinking as I was telling this story, have you ever gone into a restaurant, okay, a fish restaurant, and they have 很多这个鱼缸啊, big fish tanks. Okay, what do you see in those fish tanks? The fish are moving very slowly. Why? It's just this way. Can you imagine that the Japanese people could even tell if a fish had been in a fish tank? So put a challenge in your life. Don't be afraid to look and try something. Today, climb a mountain if you've never climbed one before. Today, sing a song if you've never sung one before. Today, make a friend if you have not made a friend for a long time. What I'm saying in this lesson is that if you actually take a little bit risk, adventurous 冒险, you will have an interesting day, and you will grow and you will become a better person. Oh dear, we're running out of time. Here is our email address. Our email address is theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And our website is www.theoldprinciple.org. So with that, I must say that it's been a pleasant experience to spend this time with you, and I hope that you will join us next time.